Expected to happen when heads of countries get together. And our big question tonight is what can be expected from 8th BRICS summit on tackling global challenges? Because we have to talk about that, and we have KV Prasad with us, Associate Editor, Tribune with us. Welcome to the show, KV. Now, building responsive, inclusive and collective solutions is what the theme India picked, and it's a clever play because it can be abbreviated to BRICS. But beyond being clever, India is really connoting that we want conclusive, concrete results on global challenges. Do you feel that that is what will happen in the next 2 days?
Much of it has already been discussed when the Sherpas meeting took place, the foreign leaders, the ministers meeting took place. So a path and the roadmap has been dealt with. But the additional focus that India is trying to, let us not forget that basically BRICS was an economic platform where all the emerging economies, as you know, have come together and try and see.
But we're now trying to channel it for other purposes.
Other issues have also
especially terrorism.
Yes, climate change, terrorism, all that. But India is in the backdrop of the Uri attacks, is very clear that we need to move forward on the issue of terrorism. Try and bring some kind of a voice, one voice emerging out of the BRICS. And that is the focus, because the effort is to try and see how we can move forward as a group and come out with some concrete statement or something which says that all these countries are one in one voice.
Yes.
Now,
and it's not just BRICS; it's BIMSTEC as well.
Yeah, BIMSTEC, of course, is an expanded kind of a format. But essentially, the BRICS, if you look, because in this contains China. Now, why it's important is because everybody is very well aware
that Pakistan is not there, but China is there.
No, China is essentially known to be an all-weather friend of Pakistan. But in the post-Uri attacks and also after the surgical strikes, the voices that have come out have more or less appreciated India's position. But what is important is how China, because India's push is to try and get moving the Comprehensive Convention of International Terrorism, which is pending for the last 20 years. Now, how can you bring out a political? Because India has been talking about it.
And we've been saying that let's not get bogged down by describing what terrorism is.
So this is one of the trying to break through that, because essentially, if you remember, 2014, Prime Minister Modi spoke at UN. He said, let us get this going. Let us first come to the definition of terrorism. But now the change mood in trying to get this thing moving, I think the offer is let's keep that aside, because everybody can understand what is a terror, an attack of terror, instead of getting bogged down into defining terror, because South America would different countries, different regions have their own concepts. So we're trying to get away from that. So one hopes that this is a move which they are trying to push. Economy, of course, remember.
And will China be on board on that?
Well,
Russia should be, because we're perhaps trying to get our bilateral ties into a new phase altogether, with the annual summit also taking place alongside, and we expect huge agreements, key deals to be formalized and announced.
Yeah, we heard that, and in fact, we heard both the Russian Deputy Foreign Minister say just a few minutes ago, we heard this clip. So it's the kind of focus, because over the years what has happened is there's this talk of India moving closer to the United States. You know, there has been always this talk, the increasing military spending, India's military supplies being coming from the US. But don't forget, I mean, Russia is a traditional supplier for
it's the biggest supplier of arms
for years together. We've been doing it
even now.
So that is the thing, and also it's not just supplies of arms, but the kind of the platforms of different variety, and also the spares keep coming from those parts. So it's a very important engagement, and now we again talking of a missile defense system. We're talking of the remember, we already have a lease of a nuclear submarine. The second thing is on. I think the nomenclature is not very clear as to what kind of a thing. I mean, Indians may be looking for one thing, and the Russians may be offering. So those are the issues.
That needs to be worked out. I think
not
it
just
will be
defense.
worked out.
It's a wide sector, the energy sector, the nuclear energy.
Yes.
So all these are issues.
Nuclear also conventional, because we're looking at some investments from Russia as well.
And remember, the bigger challenge which BRICS looks at is the climate change. Because COP21 is through. India has ratified it. India has joined it, and what is important is after US China, India, US get bracketed as the biggest polluters in the world. So India's challenge is also, as an emerging economy, as a developing economy, what kind of model do you adopt where you come into investments, you come with infrastructure, you come with a growing economy. So this is you need to balance your commercial, your movement on the path.
And again, for that,
economy.
India needs to engage with China because it has posited the need for NSG membership to it meeting its commitments as far as the climate is concerned.
That's on the side, because NSG membership is again linked to what we were talking of Masood Azhar's treatment. China has made some statement before it comes to here. So all these get wrapped up in. But I think BRICS, of course, is a larger area, and if you look at the last 1 year or two, except China and India, the other economies have gone down. And Russia too is facing problems because of the sanctions imposed by the West. So all these are issues. We are looking at trade.
The others, apart from China and India, are commodity-based economies. And
and then South Africa and Brazil have their own shares of domestic problems, which has led to their economy get into kind of... Even
China has
growth
the upper hand in this entire, as far as total GDP share is concerned, economic activity is concerned.
China
needs to be more accommodative. So how will that happen so that global cooperation is enhanced, particularly in trade and investment?
I was just there's a very interesting article a little while. Jim O'Neill, who's supposed to have BRICS. The economist, when he was in Goldman Sachs, or probably the whole thing was conceived 2001 as the 4th fastest growing economy, where South Africa was added later.
Yes.
So 2006 it began, 2009 it started, BRIC came into being, then South Africa joins in. He just talked of economy sustainable, how you need to move forward on the same path. And his own assessment is his basic argument, which came in 15 years ago when he floated this idea. China and India continue to grow on that path. Russia, Brazil have had their problems. But if you look at the trend, India has sustained a fairly decent growth path. China has come down a bit, but still has much. The Chinese economy is much. So it's the economic powerhouse of the region. So of the whole grouping, China is the biggest in terms of economy. You can talk of a total population of 3.6 billion, 43% of the globe population stays in these 5 countries. The consumption pattern, we just talked about 30% of GDP, $4 trillion in terms of foreign exchange.
That in itself is reason enough for these countries to work together. And let's hope that over the next 2 days that happens. And it proves to be, Goa proves to be a landmark meet for these countries. Thanks a lot for joining us. We'll, of course, be talking about it over the next 2 days as well. Thanks for joining us for the meanwhile.